So, welcome, guys. Welcome to another edition of the Builders Club podcast. Today's guest is someone who's working at the frontier of one of the most transformative technologies of our time. We have Ahmad Fattahi with us, who's the Executive Director of Generative AI in Genentech, where he focuses on translating the rapid breakthroughs in AI into real scalable business impact. At a time when Gen AI is moving from experimentation to enterprise adoption, Ahmed is helping organizations understand how to turn powerful models into practical products, smarter workflows, and entirely new ways of working. His work sits at the intersection of AI strategy, product innovation, and enterprise transformation, helping leaders move beyond the hype and actually build with AI. In this conversation, we'll explore what the next phase of Gen AI tools look like, how enterprises are approaching adoption, where the biggest opportunities lie, and what leaders should be paying attention to as AI reshapes enterprises. Welcome, Ahmed. Welcome to the Builders Club podcast.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking time out, Ahmad. We'll jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about your journey. I think you have been in this ecosystem for almost 2 decades now, if I'm not wrong. Would love to know how your journey has been and what fascinated you about technology and how have you seen it evolve over time?
Sure. So you captured what I'm doing here at Genentech pretty well, at least at the introductory level, and I suspect we'll get deeper into it. So I won't spend too much more time on that yet. Um, Before here, I was at Spotfire, which is a business unit of Cloud Software Group. For 4.5 years, the product is a visual data science platform that helps other businesses such as pharmaceuticals, such as energy companies, larger pharmaceutical energy companies or chip maker, high-tech manufacturing companies of the world, do their business generating or producing drugs or generating energy out of the earth or building the most sophisticated chips in the world, and a few other industries do their business better with data and data science. And that was actually a very good window into how AI and data science helps in an enterprise in the real world, basically moving from research and the best models in the world to the actual something different in the real world, which is a totally different problem. Before that, I was for 2 years at Cisco, leading an internal data and AI services team, which gave me a very good window into how challenging it can be, or it is in almost all cases, to actually make a difference, make a real process or people change with the technology inside a large, complicated, conglomerate, world-class environment. And before that, for 11 years, I was at OSIsoft, which was later acquired by Aviva. Now it is a part of the Schneider Electric conglomerate family. All of these, except for the Cisco part in the middle, all of my journey has been leveraging some aspect of data, data science, AI, machine learning, depending on the which year you're in. You might call it a slightly different thing, but eventually it's about helping businesses, enterprises do their job better, more efficiently, and effectively, leveraging data and data science. And just to add a little bit more on the more academic side, I did my bachelor's, master's, and PhD all in electrical engineering. I graduated in 2008 from UCLA, and but I was mostly on the analytical side and control systems. And in 2022, I published a book on with Wiley titled IoT Product Design and Development.
Interesting. So, all your life has been data and analytics, is what I understand.
That's correct.
Great. So I always say this, and a lot of people from the industry also say this, that AI is nothing new. It used to be called ML at one point of time. Now it's being called AI because it's got an automation layer on top of it. What's your take on this, and how have you seen? I think you were initially working in the ML side of things, if I'm not wrong, and now that slowly transitioned into the AI side. So how has that transition been, and has the terms of work or engagement changed in any format?
Sure. That's a good question, and it quickly gets into the realm of opinions. So, take that with a grain of salt. Everything I'm going to say is basically my view. There are other very reasonable other different views too. So in my opinion, if I zoom out, look at the story of this whole technology, it is a continuum. I agree with that, but also within that continuum, it's not like one linear slope. There has been some jumps, some bigger than the others on this continuum, and I always like this analogy of how gradually we humans over time have given more and more decision power, basically, at the end of the day, to the machines. The machines, could be called, to your point, ML or data science or AI, but regardless, um, so something that everybody connects with is the business, the problem of going from point A to point B. I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, or until 30, 40 years ago, our way of doing it as humans was to look up, open a map, a physical map, see different options, choose our route, and even then, when we started driving, we might stop at the gas station and ask another human, but eventually everything was our decision. Maybe starting around year 2000 or so, we started to delegate the decision of which route should I take to the likes of Yahoo Maps or MapQuest. But at least in my case, I would still check. So it was human in the loop. And I printed out the map, the route. I checked a couple times. Sometimes I memorized it, and then we went to the business of going from a. Maybe 10 years later or so, most people started to give a little bit more to the machine. So we just put the address in the navigator, and we start driving without checking. When the navigator said turn right, we turned right. We didn't even check, we didn't question. And nowadays, if I actually look at my window right now, I might see a Waymo passing by. So we gave up the act of driving, so pretty much everything to the machines. So that to me is a good example of, if you zoom out, look at the trajectory, regardless of what you call it, we gradually gave up more and more decision power and action power to AI and to the machines. Speaking of jumps, this most recent jump, basically, most vividly and publicly started from the ChatGPT moment. It's a significant jump in my view, because the wisdom, the intelligence, and the autonomy of the machines made a significant leap to the point that was not nearly possible before. So, yes, it's a continuum, but this recent jump over the past 3 years or so has been very significant.
Very interesting. So, from what I could understand is, while initially the control was, or rather the execution and control laid with us, we slowly gave the power, more and more power to the machines. And now I think majority of the things have become kind of autonomous, as in majority of the power lies with the machines now, and we have less to do with both the decision making and the execution. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It continues to move in that direction. So
During
there are still, like, I don't know, look at politics. Still, lots of it is purely humans, right? Or look at in an operation room, a surgeon. It's still pretty much all human driven, right? But it's coming. Like, my example was intentionally extreme in the
of
case of
course.
the business of going from point A to point B. Um, and it's kind of in response to this whole debate that, oh, is AI going to take over or not? And some of the arguments I hear uh, are based on this mental image that one morning you wake up and you're like, oh, overnight the machines have risen. um, my point is that, yes, that would make a good drama, but in reality it has been happening. It will continue to happen. Actually, you could argue that it's expediting pretty fast. So we're gradually giving over decision and action power more and more to the machines.
Interesting. So, Ahmad, you are basically working in the Gen AI space. That's at the forefront of artificial intelligence as we know it. Help me understand a little bit about what exactly do you do? Because for us, we are looking at things from a sideline. You are the one, you guys are the ones who are actually working on it. Help me understand what is it that you guys do? What is it that Genentech also does? And what changes are you people doing to the world?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. And if you don't mind, I'm going to bring examples both from Genentech and from Spotfire, my
Yeah,
last job.
right.
Uh, eventually, in the most abstract way, it's what we do is no different than any other technical job. Eventually, there is a business. Like in my example, you're either taking energy out of the earth or through the air or through the sun, or you're uh, building drugs or you are making chips. Technology helps with that to make it more efficient. So that's that's the backdrop or the foundation of everything. It's becoming a ever increasing or increasingly more important tool. There are a few different ways. If you're coming from the business side, you can think of it as, I can slice it for you as top line and bottom line impact. That's probably one good way to look at it. So there are usually more obvious, more like the first things people think about are bottom line impacts. What does it mean? It means if you have a team, a function that spends n number of person hours to do a specific function in your organization, with this technology, Gen AI, you can do the same thing with n times 2 or n times 3. There are examples like that. You can also argue that the quality in some cases increases. In our case at Genentech, examples of that are in the functions of like our commercial functions. When you have a product and you want to offer it in the proper, most accurate way and effective way to the world, or educate your customers, your users, marketing operations, access of your customers, your users to your products. In my last job, similar thing. For our customers, we wanted to make a product that's more accessible to the end users through natural language. So that's what generative AI did to basically bridge the gap between the desired human users and where the technology was to cut short the learning curve. Typically, the second category, typically they come later to the mind, the top line impact, when generative AI helps in a more essential way to either help improve the top line in like net, so you can increase your revenue because technology can help your field people find things that otherwise they wouldn't find, or bandwidth issues. You have a limited size team to do that. Or in more extreme cases, you can even build net new products with the help of Gen AI that otherwise wouldn't be possible. This phase usually comes a little bit later in the maturity curve of the companies because it typically requires more transformation, more mental shift. And when it happens, though, the impact is usually bigger, maybe by one order of magnitude than the first category. These are all rules of thumb. Every case obviously is different, and there are some historical parallels to it. The one I love is, and I borrowed this from a nice write-up by the CEO of Notion AI that I read a few months ago. So the analogy is historical parallel. When the Industrial Revolution started, right before that, there were these textile companies where the shop was sitting next to the streaming water, a river, because they needed power, and the source of power, the feasible source of power, was streaming water. So they had these wheels that would turn with the water. When the steam engine was invented and popularized, the first line of thought was, well, these wheels are squeaky and takes a lot to maintain, and they have a certain level of efficiency. Let's just rip them off and replace them with these new pieces of technology. And many people, many factory owners did that. It was much faster. It was right there. But the gains were gains, but they were modest. It took them 10, 20 years to figure out that you know what? We are not even bound to these streaming bodies of water, to rivers anymore, because um, it takes a while for the brains to adjust. And so they were now unshackled. So they moved the factories all together to the new uh, to the new locations, closer to supply chain centers, closer to centers of population, closer to harbors and ports. That was when the explosive growth happened. So, kind of the same analogy. We are, in my view, we are still mostly in the phase where we are keeping our processes more or less the same and just attaching Gen AI or this new technology to them, which is still very good, and in many cases non-trivial, by all means hard. The gains are relatively smaller, still can be significant for by any measure, but relative to re-envisioning, rethinking the whole process from the get-go with this new technology, still, the biggest gains are probably ahead of us.
Got it. Got it. So I think you work with enterprises. Then when we talk about adoption, I think it's usually is usually top to bottom when it comes to any technology getting adopted, right? So while a lot of experimentation might be happening in the usual early stage companies where they are trying to figure out use cases, the real adoption and rather the commercial viability is always tested when the enterprises actually start adopting them. I think from your perspective also, the problem that you're talking about is usually for the enterprises where building up momentum for this digital transformation is really a task because it's all the legacy processes need to be transformed and it's a challenge in general. And while everybody now accepts that AI is the future and all the processes need to be for maximum efficiency and maximum ROI, still take time. I want to understand from you because you work with a lot of enterprises and where exactly, what stage are we in when we talk about enterprise AI, and also any specific industries which you're seeing moving more faster than the other, any industries which are showing the maximum kind of resistance to this?
So, the B2C area is probably the faster one here, which is no surprise. That's almost always the case. And basically, arguably, the whole thing was unleashed because of ChatGPT, which is again B2C. Um, I'm not going to get too much into that because that's not my expertise. But I could, anybody could argue fairly easily that's the case. Um, in the B2B area, um, I have had visibility into a few different industrial verticals, such as life sciences, which I'm in right now, as well as high tech manufacturing, as well as the energy sector, to some extent, financial sector, primarily through my last job. Uh, these verticals were all my customers. So through that lens, the life sciences has been, to some extent, actually surprisingly, or uncharacteristically, at the forefront. And uncharacteristically, I actually mean it in a very good way, because of the high amount of regulation in that industry, together with the financial sector, they've usually been the more cautious ones, waiting out the quirks of any new technology before heavily jumping in. But this time they have been actually at the forefront, I could argue, um, followed by some of the other ones, such as the high tech manufacturing, the chip making industry, which is having the the best time of their lives these days, deservedly so. The energy sector, I feel like they're kind of being cautious a little. Maybe they don't feel the need yet. It's all relative, though. I'm not making any opinion in or absolute way. Uh, and if I dig a little bit deeper into the life sciences, uh, sector which I'm now closest to, and they happen to be in the forefront, in my opinion. So it's a very complex ecosystem, especially in the U.S. I guess in most countries, but in particular in the U.S., it's a very complex ecosystem. So there have been some like macro trends that they because of the amount of unstructured data, that may be a big factor compared to like if you're in the business of building chips. A large or majority of your data happens to be structured data, like machine readable or machine generated data to begin with, as opposed to in life sciences, you have lots and lots of data in unstructured format, as in highly specialized medical documents or FDA regulations or doctors' notes in different parts of the industry, which lends itself more and more toward using this new technology, Gen AI, which is very good at handling unstructured data. So that's, in my opinion, one significant factor. Another factor, which is very interesting, is kind of the intra dynamics inside the sector. Um, so there are some interesting dynamics happening when some of the healthcare providers a while ago, they started to adopt this technology to improve both the quality and the speed or frequency of the claims they produce to send to the payers, the insurance companies. Uh, it resulted in better and less error prone files or claims. The payers, they were not necessarily the first ones to jump on the new technology, but all of a sudden they were inundated with more frequency requests for claims for to pay, and they were better quality. There were fewer issues with them to send back and rebut. So their hand was forced, or I don't know, maybe they were incentivized. That's probably the lighter way to say it, to also match and adopt Gen AI to match the volume and the quality of the healthcare providers. So there's that commercial and the dynamic part of the industry that's going on. Not to mention, not to forget the scientific part, which has been not only quite active, but you all remember last year the Nobel Prize in chemistry went to AI, led by DeepMind, which is actually all about large molecule proteins that will everybody hopes that will give a major boost to new drug discoveries and in the whole life sciences. So, uh, it's the engine in this sector is working on all cylinders.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity, and you rightly so. You pointed it out rightly that I think healthcare is usually the slowest when it comes to technology because of the regulations, and rightfully so. Because you're dealing with lives at the end of the. But given that, given that the discovery of new molecules has kind of accelerated because of AI. Hopefully, do you see AI helping us in finding the cure for cancer soon?
It's happening before our eyes. It's again, one foot in front of the other. So every month, every quarter, there's just yet another hopeful study that comes out. Um, but it's highly specialized. So when you say cure cancer, it's a very broad, super broad statement. Every cancer, even breast cancer itself, has different types, and actually, it's one of the powers of this technology, together with obviously the human brain, is to, instead of the old way of treating like cancer as, okay, so there are, I don't know, three types. I'm not a physician, so I'm just making numbers up. But pretty much it was like this. It was broad, less effective with a lot of side effect kind of medications or treatments for a very wide range of, let's say in this case, cancers. um, as opposed to fast forward now, technology together with human brain has allowed very personalized and customized treatments for very different types of the same disease that 20, 30 years ago they were all categorized, ensembled together with customized drugs, molecules. Lots of it is enabled by technology and enabling in a both cognitively and economically feasible way to do that distinction, to make that distinction and make a very specific molecule for this very specific type of cancer as opposed to the other one.
Interesting. Ahmed, as a layman, I want to understand what's, and this might be stupid, because you, of course, are an expert, but if you have to explain to a layman what's the difference between AI and Gen AI, how would you describe it?
Sure. So, until Gen AI, most of the output types or creations by AI or machine learning were in this in a few categories. They were able to make classifications, for example, to say this email is spam or not, or which language this body of text should be classified as, how many ensembles or groups I can break down this messy collection of data points, or I can forecast this quantity over the next year. Um, Things of this nature, they were very good. Don't get me wrong, but they were very limited, and also what we humans generally consider generating content, they were not doing that. And if they did, it was very subpar. We all remember even just 15 years ago how mostly actually funny machine translation was from one language to the other. Um, the difference now with Gen AI is they are very good at generating an output, which is can be of different types. I'll get to that in a second. That to most humans, it feels like net new content, net new text, net new image, net new video. In many cases, with very little guidance or instruction by the human. Not only that, you can even adjust, and this is commercially available. This is not like you don't need a AI specialist to make this happen. You can even adjust how creative or how like stick to the safe answer. So you can adjust that. You can even guide this machine to provide or generate its content within the context that you give it. It has the ability, it feels like, to listen to you and obey your commands in natural language. People, I'm sure you've heard about vibe coding. Some people basically say it's I'm we are using when you use this technology to make software, you're basically programming in your natural language. If it's English, your software product is in English as opposed to in Python. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but not by a lot. Some call it like, hey, when we moved from assembly and C to the more declarative languages like or managed code like .NET or later Python and R and languages like that, it's a continuum of that, just getting farther and farther away from the machine, closer to our natural language. That's true. I don't. I wouldn't debate that. But even then, there are some difference. Like the jump is bigger because you can be very inexact in your English or natural language description of what you want. Uh, when you moved from C to Python, you had to be very specific and exact. It was still something in machine language you could feel. But now it's you literally speak your language and the machine builds it, not small modules, in some cases very large pieces of software all on its own, which leads many people to kind of treat it as autonomy. That's another big difference. Um, so people feel like humans feel like I give instructions to this machine and it just makes decisions on its own, it reasons, and then it acts on its reason or reasoning. It also is able to have a retrospection, make a decision, think about it, and if it doesn't work, adjust, make a different decision. So all of these factors are significantly different in Gen AI compared to the traditional AI.
Very interesting. One thing which we have observed, and because as from a business perspective, a lot of companies have started using AI into their lives. And while there's a lot to be said about AI when it comes to execution as an on-ground execution, especially when you talk about white coding, there is a lot of debugging that is required, right? So while from a superficial level, it's very good for an MVP, but to actually build a real life, end-to-end product completely on AI is still a little bit far off, at least from what we see on ground. What's your take on that? And from a normal user perspective, from a consumer standpoint, rather, how far are we from the days when end to end without any human intervention at all, things could be done by AI, completely autonomously?
Yeah, so it varies quite a bit by the industry and the function, but in many cases, it's here. Um, for example, so my example of driving, it's here, and I see it every day. Um, when you open your door and you see a new package by delivered by Amazon, lots and the majority, a strong majority of all of the decision from order, the moment you click or tap on your phone screen and make the finalize the order, a lot happens. If you think about the the payment, your account, your payment through your credit card, your bank, getting approved, all of that is automated through machines. Then a process starts inside Amazon. Where to route, where which in the physical world, which robot to go where. So um, it's in many cases invisible to us, but it's happening. Um, Increasingly more in other functions that have been traditionally human done, human led. The encroaching of or by the machines continue to happen. A couple months ago, I heard from a friend and a cohort at the University of Chicago. Um, he mentioned that at their facility, or it's a financial institution, um, they had this function uh, all done through humans to do a certain regulatory forms to the FTC, Federal Trade Commission in the U.S. It's a very specific format, so people get trained, and it costs the organization roughly $600,000 per year to run that function. Now they are in contract with a Gen AI startup or company, um, and they do the same function with $10,000 per year. So, I mean, in many cases, it's already happening. Is it perfect? No. There are news pieces in the like public view, like the other month. I think Air Canada was forced to basically give up tickets at $1 or a very cheap price because it's agentic autonomous AI decide to do that. So there are some examples of imperfection, but it's getting better every day. Uh, it has a lot of challenges. To your point, um, the companies, the enterprise, especially large enterprises who are more nimble and move faster, in my example of pharmaceuticals and Genentech, kudos to the organization. They have decided to not wait and be forced into this. So they decide to move faster and face the challenge that will be inevitable. Sooner or later, the sooner you move, the sooner you can take control, be at the helm. It is not just a technological bottleneck or barrier. Actually, in most cases, the bottlenecks are somewhere else in my experience in large enterprises. Usually people and processes are the bottlenecks. Data, which is a byproduct of people and processes, is also another big issue that needs to happen. And just bringing all the pieces of the puzzle in large enterprise between the IT and the business and different parts of the IT and the business to all work to row in the same place in unison. Those are very significant challenges that have nothing to do with the technology. They're all people and process challenges. But having said that, it is happening. It's the this train has left the station, and if you look at I haven't done a scientific study on this, but just anecdotally, until maybe a year ago or so, I could still hear from here some corners of my professional circle or on the internet people who would still be like use the word bubble. Uh, I'm not hearing I'm not hearing that in a while now. And if you look at the revenues that the two leading companies, OpenAI and Anthropic, are bringing in, they're bringing in, like 20, $25 billion as revenue. It's significant. It's happening. Things are happening.
Mhm. No, I think when people say the bubble, it's usually related to the stock market and not the application in general. And there's a lot to talk about that, but we'll not touch there. I wanna go a little bit on the abstract side with you here. A few questions around AI specifically. First one being, what do you think about what's your take on singularity? And will there be a day when Skynet becomes a reality?
Yeah, I mean it good. It makes good drama. It's good. It has its uses to grab the imagination of people and inspire people to imagine scenarios and get excited. Um, I'm all for that. Um, in the real world, though, call me, I don't know, too conservative or I don't know, whatever you want to call me. Uh, I always thought of these changes as slopes with
Mm,
occasional jumps. So I don't know. At least in uh, our lifetime and maybe two more lifetimes after us, um, unless we AI makes us live for 200 years. I don't think we are gonna wake up one morning and we see that we have lost control. AI has taken over. It just increases the slope increases the power, the decision power and control that the AI has, but it's still first of all too removed from the physical world. It can change too, but still, we haven't seen too much of that. Physical world meaning like kinetic, like
But but
robots,
but
right?
but what do you make of the news articles which come that a Google employee said that that AGI has already been achieved and singularity has already been achieved and the AI in Google or AI in Anthropic is not listening to them and all of that all those news articles.
Yeah, so I repeat what I said. I think it makes good headlines and it triggers the imagination, inspires people. Don't get me wrong, and it's I'm sure it's very impressive, the technology. Those systems taking over, that's a whole different, like, multiple steps ahead. Um, you don't forget that these machines are still not connected even with each other. These systems that
Mm,
we say AI will take over, but what is it? What is AI? And there are a billion different pieces across the world, some
mm,
connected to each other, but most of them not. I'm in the camp of it's more like triggering drama and
mm,
headlines. Who knows? What will happen. I don't want to undermine the value of or overlook the value of ethical AI and the need
no,
for regulation and control.
Of
So
course.
that's absolutely true, especially if it gets if uh, people talk about or consider using these powerful tools for military use cases, which happens to be in the news quite a
Yeah.
bit these days with Pentagon and
Yeah.
Anthropic, or for like changing genes and messing with babies. There are some very significant areas that needs regulation. I'm not overlooking that at all, but singularity in the sense of like public headline. I don't know. I have other things to dedicate my cognitive bandwidth to,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I think it's going to be a continuum, and the way it's gonna happen is slowly but surely. The way when the industrial revolution happened, we kind of outsourced all our physical efforts to machines. Now with AI coming to the picture, we'll slowly start outsourcing all our mental work to AI, and our grandchildren are going to be the dumbest in the human civilization. The way I look at it. But yeah, I mean, there will be a time when we wouldn't be required to work because majority of the work will be done by AI, and that is the whole concept of the universal basic income come gets heard. And what's the need of you know currently money is one of the currencies to kind of quantify the amount of effort that you're putting in and the kind of ROI that you're generating out of it. And that effort will become very you can't quantify your own effort because you are not putting in any effort. Somebody else is doing it for you. So yeah, I mean it's a very interesting time ahead. How do you look at I mean just a scenario because you people are you're working in this space. We're sitting in 2025 and I think the talks of AI started less than 5 years back. Very difficult to look into the future given the kind of time horizons we're looking at, and the rate of change has kind of become very, very exponential. I wouldn't even go 5 years down the line, but 2026, sitting in the first quarter of 2026, which is ending, end of 2026, any interesting trends or any interesting applications of AI that you're seeing in your industry, which you think is going to be very significant for the people?
Sure. I am looking forward to a increasing level of AI helping, in particular Gen AI, helping with um, the process of harnessing, using this vast amount of unstructured data um, that just sitting there somewhere in a database somewhere, uh, in the interest of the whole cycle of uh, building new drugs, serving to the right people at the right time, educating the healthcare providers with the most accurate and succinct, not just throw at them a large document, um, pieces of information, um, helping what they call the treatment deserts where access is an issue. All of these are problems that are solvable, or at least it can be mitigated to some extent. The problem has been scarcity of intelligence, and I would translate what you said about not needing to work. In my the most abstract way I can put it is the cost of intelligence with this new technology has come down quite a bit. Um, and the example that always comes to my mind is a couple years ago, it was my friend's birthday, and I asked, I forget which assistant I used, uh, to make a poem for him, and it was funny, all good. We had a chuckle, but then the day after, I was thinking about the whole experience until like throughout the whole history until 2022, 2023. If you made that piece of personal gesture, make a poem for somebody's birthday, make a drawing, or short video or piece of music for your whoever, for your loved one, that was one of the highest valued
Yeah.
gifts, right?
Yeah.
There was so much value in that intelligence that it showed that you put a lot of your resources,
Creativity. Mm.
right? It was a scarce resource. It meant that you put some of your scarce resources into that gift. That's why it meant so much. But after thousands and thousands of years, over the course of a few years, the value of that went to almost zero now. Everybody can do that in 5 seconds. So I 100% agree with you on that. So looking forward to leveraging this whole decrease in the price of intelligence to do better things to serve all of these patients, make better drugs as well. Obviously, like I mentioned, a few examples to really make targeted drugs that go target the right cells at the right time with minimal damage to anything else that creates all of these risks and side effects. So this personalized medication goes a long way, and it goes all the way down to the patients, like this ring that I'm wearing and all of that. So make it that personalized. And a little bit outside my industry, but I'm also very, very curious and excited about the start of applying Gen AI to the physical kinetic world, um, like ambient AI,
Interesting.
and see how Gen AI can be applied to actually moving things around. That'll be a new world.
Very interesting. The last few notes. One, any specific tools that any AI tools that you would want to recommend or which you think is very useful for professionals in general for people that you use in your daily life and which you think is very useful for people?
So there are many. I'm gonna mention maybe two or three for different purposes. So pretty much everybody is now familiar with the like consumer grade AI assistants, such as most famously ChatGPT. Nowadays Anthropic Claude has gained some momentum. Gemini is really good. Microsoft Copilot, all of that. So they're obviously good. And in my experience at the consumer level, many people still are not aware of all the things that they can do. I actually use them quite a bit for my deciding which car insurance to buy, or how to plan my day-to-day vacation planning. Many people do that, but some people still don't. So that's one. I use NotebookLM quite a bit, which is a Google product, and it's fantastic for consuming large amounts of data, information. Imagine that you want to learn about a specific topic, history, art, or you want to plan a trip to Indonesia next month, and but you're too busy to read, multiple books or websites, or watch YouTube videos. You can put all of them, all different types, into a notebook and have this tool, Notebook LM, to create a podcast for you. You can even in live form ask questions of the host of the podcast, um, or create slide decks off of it. So I've seen that being very, very helpful both in consumer and enterprise environments. Obviously, in enterprise, you need to make sure that it's sanctioned by your organization. And last but not least, like increasingly more toward builders, if you are not necessarily a computer scientist or programmer or AI professional, but you're curious to get your hands a little bit dirty, there are tools where you can build AI systems, see how agents connect to each other, how these tools work. A good example of it is CrewAI, CREW.ai. Um, Basically, the name comes from, basically it's your crew of
Yeah.
workforce, and you can literally either drag and drop your agents and tools and connect them with each other, or you can even deal with this whole situation through natural language and just tell the tool what you want to build. For example, you can say, I want to apply for this job, and I have the job description in the file, and I am tomorrow talking to, I don't know, the HR person or the hiring manager whose title is X and Y, and this is his resume or his background. Um, and I want to build a system that answers for me in the context of this job. And by the way, here's my resume, and here's my website, and here's my LinkedIn. So play the role of the interviewer, ask questions, and then build another agent that answers the questions in the context of the job, but in the context of my background. And you see it's like magic. You see before your eyes, agents get created, tools get connected to each other, and sometimes it even adjusts itself, links, it reverses back, and you can run it. If you see something wrong, sometimes it happens. You can give it feedback and you say, "Hey, I asked for LinkedIn, not I don't know, this other website, my Facebook," and it's like, "Okay, sorry." And before your eyes, you see the tool changes from Facebook to LinkedIn. So if you want to get your hand dirty without necessarily jumping in deep into things like NA10 or more heavier, and NA10 is not too heavy, but you can still build a lot with just natural language. So that would be my last suggestion.
Last question. Will AI help us live for 200 years or more?
Yes. Yes.
You're from the life sciences ecosystem. We'll take your word for it. And hopefully in our own lifetime.
Yeah, so that's the big question. But if you ask me how, I don't know. But if I put my best hat on and extrapolate my observations so far, um, I my answer would be a fairly confident yes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you look at human evolution in general, a lot of things that we do now might be considered magic 100 years back, right? So it's never seen when it comes to technology and possibilities. With that, Ahmed, thanks a lot for your time. How was your experience of this overall 60-75 minutes that we have been chatting?
Very good. I appreciate it. I enjoyed our conversation.
As I said, it is going to be a very, very breezy conversation. And the fact that you are an AI specialist, I never had to divert my attention towards any of the topic. I wanted to go deeper. But thanks a lot. It has been very, very enriching. And looking forward to hosting you for a few of our other events as well. I mean, I think we'll try and use NotebookLM and convert this into probably a white paper as well. Whatever discussions that we have done. Let's see. We'll share that with you. And yeah, I mean, thanks a lot again, Ahmed, for the time.
Thank you very much for having me.